We're here with Haifeng Shi, who is with Bianjie. Bianjie is the team behind IrisNet, which was one of the first projects to launch that used the Cosmos SDK. And IrisNet actually launched their mainnet before the Cosmos Hub even launched. So yeah, they're real OGs in the Cosmos ecosystem, and Haifeng is one of the co-founders alongside Harriet. And Haifeng is here with me to talk about Interchain NFTs. They've just completed the ICS 721 specification for IBC transfer of non-fungible assets. Haifeng, is there
Hi.
something about your background that I missed?
Yeah, it's pretty much everything. It's a very complete introduction. Thank you, Chango. I'm happy to be here.
IrisNet actually built you had your own bespoke NFT module from some years ago already. So how
Right.
did that work evolve into the Interchain standard?
Yeah, as you said, IrisNet team is one of the first teams in the Cosmos ecosystem to have a working NFT module that has been loaded into the Iris Hub mainnet. And we open sourced the module from day one. So a couple of other teams in the Cosmos ecosystem use our module as well, like chain.com. I think there's a couple of, I know at least three other teams. But I think
Crypto.com?
I'm chain.com or blockchain.com. I forgot the team's name. Yeah. Anyway, and I think at one point when there's a discussion started to in terms about the interchain transfer of non-fungible tokens, I think there has been quite some discussions in the community, especially among the core developers and the KOLs about how we go about doing that. I believe it was Zaki or someone else that suggested that we should have a so-called base NFT module. So it's that should be located within the SDK, like X/NFT, that handles the basic storage of the NFT data. That will make it easier for tools like wallets to handle the display and processing of the NFT, basic the NFT data. And then we build the interchain capability on top of that. So with that, we are charged. Basically, we had this sponsoring from the ICF to spec out this base NFT module and implement it, and that's what we did after I think a year and a half ago. We had written out the specification for this base NFT module, and we implemented it after going through the usual reviewing sessions. And it took a couple of months before the NFT module eventually got into the SDK. I think starting from version 0.46. And then I think IrisNet, we're the first team to actually use that new base NFT module to refactor our old NFT module. So because on IrisNet mainnet, there are tens of thousands of NFT data already created using the old NFT module. So we have to do this data migration and during the upgrade to use the new XNFT module. And so this is this one side of the story. The other side is then we have in the meantime, we are charged to design the specification for interchain NFT transfer with the XNFT capability in mind. So that's the other side of the story. So your question about the original NFT module and the new base NFT module that based on that, yeah, that's pretty much the story about that.
What can people do with this standard?
Because ICS 721 itself is just a IBC application level specification that enables people to transfer non-fungible tokens across different chains. So it's a specification, it's a standard. It's not running code itself. Application teams to develop tools like Osmosis, so something like Osmosis. What Osmosis has been done for the fungible tokens, and these application will do the same thing for non-fungible tokens, like marketplace or rental marketplaces. So people can have their existing NFTs in certain local chains transferred to these DeFi applications, be it a just a marketplace or a rental facility, to increase the liquidity of their existing assets. I mean, these are just DeFi kind of application, but we can have other applications as well, like gaming. For example, if you have a chain that whose major function is gaming, then you can already have NFTs, for example, that represent different equipments and gadgets in the game that you can transfer to other chains, which is a different game, but can recognize and reuse your equipment. So that provides another use cases for existing assets. So basically, before ICS 721, your assets, non-fungible token in the form of non-fungible tokens, can exist only on your local chain, right? Now you have the potential of transferring it to other chains. I mean, chains like marketplace, rental facilities, or to other similar applications where your asset can be reused. So that creates much larger use scenarios for existing assets. The specification work is pretty much done. I mean, of course, we can always keep upgrading it, improving it. I mean, if you look at the specification in the Cosmos IBC repository, you can see the complete history of a discussion around the specification and different PRs and all the edit histories. But with the specification done, I think toward the end of last year, there are two streams of implementations. One is led by IrisNet team, which is basically a Golang module implementation of the specification, and the other work has been led by Stargaze, and also I think guys from Juno, Arc Protocol, and Gravity Bridge. They not Gravity Bridge, but Gravity Bridge will be using the Go implementation. But the other teams, I mean Stargaze, these guys are working on a Wasam contract-based implementation of the same specification. So we right as we speak, the two implementations are in beta status, I would say, and there are no official releases of these implementations yet. And these teams, I mean, IrisNet, Stargaze, Juno, Arc Protocol, we have been running some private test nets among ourselves to test out these two implementations. I think right now there are three or four test nets. I know IrisNet has one, Stargaze, and Uptick. IrisNet and Uptick have the test nets are using the Golang implementation. And Stargaze testnet is using the Wasam contract-based implementation. And we already successfully conducted NFT transfers among these three testnets. So this effort is part of our preparation for launching the Game of NFTs, which we'll talk about later in this interview. So we will basically, during these internal testings, we were trying to find as many bugs as possible and work out the final kinks in our implementations, make sure they interoperate with each other correctly, so that we can have a decent two different decent implementations of the specification that people can use in the game.
That's exciting. That's the first time I'm hearing about Game of NFTs. So yeah, before we talk about that, I'm interested in learning more about how chains basically interoperate using this standard. So if a chain like, let's say, the Cosmos Hub that doesn't have CosmWasm capability, does it need to do a hard fork and have breaking changes in order to plug that in? And
if we use Cosmos Hub as the example, then because Cosmos Hub currently doesn't have any NFT modules loaded, right? So all we have to do is to first upgrade Cosmos Hub to a version that depends on Cosmos SDK version 0.46 and above, because only by doing that you will have access to the underlying X/NFT based NFT module, right? As I explained earlier, the ICS 721 Golang implementation depends on that module. That's the first thing we have to do. And then the next thing is to load Golang implementation in the form of module that implements the ICS 721 into Cosmos Hub. So that maybe that's another upgrade, or just you can put these two upgrades, two new features in one upgrade. And then once you have that, basically Cosmos Hub will have the ability to send and receive NFTs using the ICS 721 protocol.
Now let's assume a Cosmos SDK chain that isn't CosmWasm enabled, but does have the NFT module running. Can it send and receive NFTs from Stargaze, for example, that does not have the NFT module running, but has ICS 721 spec implemented in CosmWasm? Pretend Cosmos Hub has done what you said,
Okay.
but no CosmWasm, and
Okay.
to and from
Stargaze.
Stargaze, which
Yeah.
has CosmWasm but no NFT module.
They will work perfectly. That's what I just explained in our internal testings currently going on. We have two test nets. One run by maintained by IrisNet team. The other be run by the Uptick, and the third one by Stargaze. And we have done internal tests among these three chains to pass NFTs back and forth. I mean, so although two different implementations are involved here, I mean, the tests have been successful so far. But as I said, we had to work out a few kinks. I mean, by fixing a few bugs, especially in terms of handling null values and empty strings, and on both sides, because the Golang and the Wasm contracts behave differently in that field, in that area. So we had to work out a few bugs, but now things are working.
Game of NFTs. What's going on there? What's the plan? What's the rollout plan, and when should people expect to be able to participate? Who can participate? Validators?
A Game of NFTs are designed as a two-phase event. I mean, the first phase is about incentivized testnet. That phase is designed for blockchain project teams and the service providers, including node operators and relayer operators. And so this first phase is really to help participants to build a solid understanding of the Interchain NFT features, and also to test out in an open manner, or sometimes in a competitive environment, to test out the capabilities and performance of this protocol, especially the correctness and liveliness of the protocol implementation, and also to help discover potential attack vectors in the implementations. And this first phase will be divided into 3 or 4 subphases with increasing level of difficulties in terms of the tasks involved. The second phase of the game is a hackathon. Hackathon is for all developers and builders interested in taking advantage of ICS 721 to build applications. The hackathon itself is also consists of two challenges. One is a so-called general challenge, which is really to call for building of tools for Interchain NFTs like Explorer, Wallet, dashboards, or other novel tools to improve the user experience for interacting with Interchain NFT capability. And the second challenge is a so-called sponsor exclusive challenge. Basically, teams are required to complete sponsor-specified tasks to build dApps, like NFT marketplace, or other use cases around NFTs and Interchain NFTs. So as you can see, I mean, basically, you have to decide what kind of role you want to play in the Interchain NFT ecosystem, and then you can choose to participate in one or both phase of the competition. During the whole during the game, throughout the game, an in-depth learning experience will be provided for developers and hackers, like recorded workshops and mentoring throughout the hackathon, and also brainstorming sessions will be open to all developers. So, and as people who have participated in earlier games in the Cosmos ecosystem, I mean, the Game of NFTs are organized in a similar manner. Yeah, if you have other questions about the organization, I can give you some details as well.
Sure. What are the dates that people should be looking out for?
Um, the first phase, the incentivized testnet, is planned. Originally, was planned to start to launch on around February 15th, but it has been. I believe that we have to delay that, postpone that a little bit because of some logistics issues, and also like as the bugs that we have to fix during the internal testing, as I explained earlier. The specifications defines the data structure of the protocol package and a certain behavior expected around how different chains process the package. But when you actually have two teams separated by half of the world, the implementation themselves have bugs that basically prevent correct processing of ICS 721 data packages between the Wasami implementation and Golang implementation. We had to deal with some of the bugs, as I said, especially how to process the null values and empty strings correctly, and a lot of details, things like that. So that postponed, get the schedule postponed a little bit. And also another thing is we had to get a sponsorship for both phases of the projects, and that takes some time too. For the first phase, incentivized testnet, we successfully got sponsorship from the community, from Cosmos Hub community, by getting a proposal passed. A community pool spend proposal passed, which is a very good thing. And for the second phase, as I said, for the general challenge and exclusive challenge, the sponsorship mainly come from these teams that initiate the event, like IrisNet, Stargaze, Gravity Bridge. And also we for the exclusive challenge, we have been trying to get external sponsorship as well, like AWS, IDG, some of the some investment institutions like IDG. I believe we are starting to get sponsorship commitment coming in. So that takes take longer than expected. The event will be launched toward the end of February and run through the end of April.
In terms of user-facing applications,
Mhm.
does it support transfer of Stargaze names and ICNS names?
You mean the NFT in terms of the NFT IDs?
So ICNS and Stargaze names, if they are attempting to be interoperable across different ICS 721 enabled chains, then they need to speak this specification.
The specification really doesn't make a requirement on the naming, how you name the NFT in terms of the NFT IDs and class IDs. But I know that at the very earlier stage of the specification process, there have been some very intensive discussion about whether we should have a stronger restriction in terms of naming, especially I mean, a lot of people at that time recommended maybe we want to introduce a DID as a standard. I mean, you know that in Cosmos Hub, in the Cosmos Hub Discord, I think there are a dedicated channel for Interchain NFT, right? I think it's called the DID NFT, something like that. But after a long discussion on the GitHub, I mean, it has been decided that for the first version of the specification, we want to keep things simple so that we don't introduce a whole set of complexity due to the DID standard stuff. So we just want to make it as simple as possible to get things started. And the next version of the specification, we may want to introduce a DID-based standard so that we can handle not just the standardization of the naming of these NFTs across different chains, but also the mutability. Potentially, we can handle mutabilities of NFT metadata across different chains. So that is an issue, whole set of issue as well. I mean, there are a lot of complexity involved. If you go to the PR that associated with the ICS 721 specification, you could see a complete history of discussion around that. The answer to a question is right now, no, we don't have a requirement on the naming. Different chains will have the different schemes in terms of naming or IDing, identifying NFTs on that specific chain. And the ICS 721 protocol will make sure that these naming schemes will not collide with each other. So they will be unique globally, but they might not be the same naming standard. It's very similar to ICS 20, right? So as an NFT travels across the Cosmos world from chain to chain, a prefix will be appended, prefixed to the class ID. So like the port ID and the channel ID will be prefixed to the original class ID. So that's the way to ensure that the uniqueness of the class of an NFT class. And the NFT ID will not change from chain to chain. So by combining the class ID and the chain ID, the NFT ID will have a unique ID for the global interchain NFT. So that's the current solution. Very simple and easy, but it's not beautiful. It may not be the most desired solution, but we'll keep improving on that.
If the specification evolves, does that have any downstream effects on the applications that already implement the original specification?
Yeah, it depends on whether the upgrade, the new specification is backward compatible, right? If it's not, then the ICS standard itself has a way of managing that, right? There's during the handshake of establishing connection and channels, there's a version that we can specify. And there are also versions at the application level. So basically, as the current version is ICS 721-1, right? Then if we upgrade it to the next version, then we probably bump the version to ICS 721-2. So then when applications on different chains handle data package, they will parse this field and see if they can handle that, right? If they can understand this version, it will support this version, then they will do that. Otherwise, they can just reject the packet, saying that I cannot handle it. I don't think there's a guarantee that the future upgrades of the ICS 721 specification will be backward compatible, but a lot of things can be done in terms of interoperabilities. And for tools like a wallet, a Kepler, it can decide how to display two different versions of the NFTs. But for tools like Kepler and the underlying data stored on the chain are just in two forms. One for a Golang module-based chain, it's just the XNFT module, which has a fixed data structure that's been used to store the NFT data. And the other possibility is a Wasam contract-based chain. Then it will be ERC 721 kind of standard, contract standard. But for any specific chain, that's integrated into the Kepler wallet, it will be able to display the NFT correctly. And then whenever it needs to transfer this NFT to other chains, it will basically just use the ICS, the implementation of that chain. It's either invoking a Wasam contract or just invoke a method in the ICS IBC stack. So just like the ICS 20 fungible token transfer.
Once we have this standard, which is great for Cosmos, then in order to interoperate with the EVM ecosystem and allow for transferability of Cosmos NFTs into Ethereum and so on, are we going to be able to do that, given that there's a bridge like XP Network or something, the cross-chain NFT bridge?
Yeah, that's where Gravity Bridge comes into play, right? So, and that's one of the reasons why Gravity Bridge has been a very active participant and leader in pushing the SES721 protocol. Just as Gravity Bridge plays the role in terms of bridging heterogeneous blockchains in terms of fungible tokens, it will continue playing the same role when it comes to non-fungible tokens. So the Gravity Bridge will eventually load the Golang module that implements ICS721. So that way it can, on one side, accept NFT transfers from the Cosmos world, and on the other side, it can just use in the ERC standard to pass NFT data back and forth, interact with the EVM compliant chains, including Ethereum, right? So, and one crucial factor that enables all this is that basically the NFT, no matter where you come from a EVM world or Cosmos world, have to follow some kind of common standards in terms of the off-chain metadata standard. So if you know that, like in the EVM world, the OpenSea is the most famous NFT marketplace. It has initiated and popularized some these off-chain metadata standard in terms of basically a JSON file that's stored off-chain, most times in a read-only distributed data file like an IPFS or RWE's kind of network, that basically stores all the attributes all the attributes or properties that describe the nature of the NFT. All right, also it has made recommended a specification at the class level that describe the whole class of a NFT in terms of a name, description, and potentially an image. Right, so. And our standard, then the Cosmos X NFT module, the common base NFT data structure actually supports specifying a URL that points to an off-chain metadata file. So as long as that file is compliant with the same or similar metadata standard, then when you pass it from a Cosmos chain through Gravity Bridge all the way to an EVM compliant chain, and it will work. No matter no matter which application process these NFTs, the metadata will be retrieved from the off-chain storage in a recognizable JSON format. Applications like NFT Marketplace will definitely work.
And with Gravity Bridge and together with the ICS 721 standard, we'll soon be able to leverage OpenSea?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
We can do that.
Yes. That's exciting.
When you think about Gravity Bridge, it creates creates the opportunity for your assets to be transferred across all the way to a heterogeneous environment.
Are there other announcements that you want to make that we haven't covered yet?
The most important thing is really the Game of NFTs. We are actively making preparation for the launch in terms of putting final touches on both implementations and getting as many external sponsors as possible, as well as getting the website up and running. It's very exciting. Not just we can, as you said, we can take advantage of existing infrastructure and the DeFi application like OpenSea. This protocol will also enable. This creates a lot of opportunities, and that's why we encourage service providers to participate in the first phase of the game, to have a very solid understanding and hands-on experience of operating relayers and applications to support the ICS 721 protocol. And we also encourage developers and hackers around the world to join the second phase, to build innovative applications that take advantage of the NFT and Internet NFT features. We're very excited to see what applications these creative people can create.
What are the prize amounts?
For the first phase, I said there's a proposal, I think 94, that gets passed has allocated to 20,000 atoms, which is close to the amount of 280,000 US dollars for the first phase. And for the second phase, it's comparable amount. But as I said, for the second phase, the funding comes not from Cosmos Hub, not from ICF, from all the participating projects, IrisNet, Stargaze, and Juno, and also some external sponsors like IDG and AWS. But sponsors from AWS will not come in the form of the fiat. It will come in the form of their cloud computing resources to support our competition. I mean, the games. Yeah, all the details will be announced. I mean, but in terms of the amount, it will be similar to the first phase, like 280K.
So when you said that AWS is sponsoring compute capacity,
yeah, basically, I think it will. I'm not. I don't know the final details yet, but we're working out the details with them. So they will, I think, provide some free or discounted cloud computing resources for people to use, especially for the first phase, right? To run node for the test nets to participate in incentive tasks.
Is this similar to how Avalanche announced their partnership with Amazon? Is that what they meant by that, where AWS is just like offering some compute?
Yeah, I think you probably know AWS has been a very. I mean, a lot of blockchain projects they actually running their infrastructure on the AWS.
Right.
So AWS, I mean,
that's actually rather alarming.
That's alarming. Yeah, yes, right. So we are actually talking to not just AWS, but also Google Cloud and some other cloud computing companies to try to solicit sponsorship. I mean, the final list will be announced as part of the launch of the event.